Yeah, well, how about this? Jimbo, in my humble opinion, couldn't hold Neal Brown's jock. Okay,
Ooh.
that's my.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul, your host, as always, and thank you for joining this episode of Locked On West Virginia, brought to you by FanDuel. Spend $5 in bonus bucks, get $200 in return. It's pretty dang simple and a good deal as always. So thank you for that and for being an everyday listener and being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we cover your team every single day. I'm excited. We've got a really special guest, somebody that I spoke to probably a little over a year ago on Kuz's show, and I really liked what he had to say and found out some cool stuff, how he's known Neal Brown for a while and other people around the program, and thought, you know what, Neal gets a lot of flack. So let's see what Coach Tony Franklin, the former offensive coordinator at Auburn, he's been at Cal, he's been at Troy, he's been at Middle Tennessee, he's been everywhere over the course of over 30 years. One of the best coaches and offensive minds in the game. Going to come on here and talk to us about Neal Brown. What is up, Coach Franklin? How are we doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well, man.
I'm going to give just a really quick rundown so they'll know that there's some bias in this interview. I've known Neal since he was 18 years old, as playing for me at the University of Kentucky. I helped him in his transfer to UMass. I hired him to coach one of my camps when he was just a kid. As I started my business, he played for me at the Lexington Horsemen and the indoor arena football. And then I gave him a job at Troy, and he was just, a young coach just getting started, and helped him to get going from there. And also within the staff, Chad Scott, I recruited to Kentucky.
Wow.
Chad's got a really interesting story with Chad and I, is that Chad had been committed to us for a long time, and right at the last moment decided he was going to Missouri. And when he came home after having his visit at Missouri, there was some coach sitting on his front porch waiting for him, and that was me. That he didn't go to Missouri. And then I also gave Chad his first job in college at Troy as well. Matt Moore. I knew Matt when he was coaching at Hoover High. I gave Matt his first college job. And then Jordan Leslie was a young GA at Troy when I was coaching at Troy. And Jeff Coons I coached with at Louisiana Tech. He was one of the best football defensive coaches I had ever been around. Still, I'm sure he still is. So just to let all your people know that, I have.
There's a lot of crossover here.
not that I'm even have a close relationship with any of those guys anymore. I don't talk to them once in a blue moon, but it's important that your people know that I do have a history with those guys.
And I appreciate that and the honesty, and I think it is important to know that as well. And I knew that coming in, obviously. And partially, I want the other side anyways, a little bit, if we can get it, because all we hear is the negative anyway.
Sure.
So I think there's somewhere in the middle. It's probably the truth anyways, but let's just say it how it is, I guess. He's 33 and 31 in the 6 years. That's not where he probably thought he would be, or anybody else at this juncture. He gets everything right. He's a great culture fit. He's from the South. He's from Kentucky. He's incredible in the locker room. He's incredible with the families. He's incredible, literally 90 out of 100 points on everything. And the on-the-field portion is really the only place that you can say he struggled. Still hasn't won on the road against a top 25 team, Tony. What do you think that is? Is it the West Virginia job? Because historically it's a top 15 winning job. So what is it, do you think, that's made that connection so hard for him?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, which is that expectations for what people think a job is versus what a job really is. If you look at right now at the Big 12, everybody's the same. Number one, if you get a job in the Big 12, you're a really good football coach. Okay. So every week you go out, you're coaching against somebody that is also a really good football coach. every week that you go out, if you beat somebody, especially now that Oklahoma and Texas are gone, but if you beat somebody now that is at one of these other jobs, then you beat somebody that's more than likely the same as you. Your talent is close to the same. Your facilities are close to the same. Your money's close to the same. Your NIL now is close to the same. And so you're going to go out every week and you're going to be in a close game. And you're going to win some of those close games. You're going to lose some of those close games. I think that the reality of going to is Neal and his staff going to be an elite staff now that the Big 12 is what it is today versus what it was when Oklahoma and Texas are? That's yet to be seen. You got to let it play out a little bit. You think about last year and you win 9 ball games. Here's the way I look at it. If you're at West Virginia, if you win 6 to 7 games, you're a good coach. If you win 8 to 9 at West Virginia, you're a great coach. If you win 10 or more at West Virginia now, they should name a road after you. Okay?
Right.
Name something after you.
Which basically happened to Rodriguez and Nealon.
Right. And here's the thing. Those guys played at a different time and the whole industry of college football, you can't compare it. It's not even close to the same. So when you go back and you say, we yearn for the days of Rich Rodriguez, is that, other people have had Rich Rodriguez since then, and it hadn't been the same.
And he's struggling at Jacksonville State right now.
Yeah, and football is just not the same. So everybody, you want the fresh start, you want the fresh name, you want the this or that. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, that's true.
It may come true. So my own feelings is that the staff as a whole, the energy dynamic, it's really good. And he's going to have a year like last year. That is a 9-win season that makes you a great coach. But he's also going to have a year that's not going to be that, which means that everybody's going to want to fire you, which is the nature of the business.
Correct. Which you know pretty well, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell everybody there's only 2 kinds of coaches. There's those that have been fired and those that will be fired. If you stay in the business, you will have been both. I've been both. And, I wasn't any uniquely different when I was fired than when I was the number 1 offense in college football. I wasn't any uniquely different than when I averaged 52 points and I averaged 23 points. There wasn't a whole lot of difference in my coaching. It was just the rhythm and the nature of the industry. Anyone that stays in it long enough, unless you're at the, quote, elite of the elite, you're at Alabama, you're at Texas, sometimes you're going to win in spite of yourself.
So entertain the fans just for a second. And I'm still in on Neal Brown. I think coming off 9 wins with that team coming back, I think it remains to be seen this year what can still be done with this team. Right. A win this weekend heads them in a really good direction to another conference. I think everything they wanted at the beginning of this year is still out in front of them. But, we've heard a lot of people say, and listen, I know this is way out there. But a lot of people just wonder, what do you think a guy like Nick Saban could do at West Virginia, just hypothetically, if he had that job?
Well,
did he change it?
I don't think it's even I understand it because he's from West Virginia, so I get that part of
or
it.
Jimbo even.
Well, how about this? Jimbo, in my humble opinion, couldn't hold Neal Brown's jock. Okay.
Ooh.
That's my humble opinion.
My thumbnail.
In pure coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you go at Texas A&M and you buy the best players in the world and you can't win. That's enough said for the new way the industry works. It's like Nick Saban said the other day, is that be careful who you pay $1 million to. Because if you pay the wrong guy, you end up like Florida State. You and Mike Norvell, in my opinion, Mike Norvell is one of the best coaches in college football. And Mike Norvell stinks right now. Yeah. Because the results are not, they're not anywhere
near. Last year spilled over into this, didn't it?
Yeah. And so the Nick Saban deal about what would Nick Saban do, nobody knows. Nobody knows. In my opinion, would be smart enough not to take the West Virginia job unless they all of a sudden say, okay, there's a coal mine out here and we're going to give you the $25 million a year that you need for NIL money to put together that roster that you need in order to be able to do it. And then good luck bringing them in. And, good luck flying them in. Good luck with what you're going to do on Saturday night. Good luck on all the other stuff that's out there. West Virginia is a unique place. It's a beautiful place. It's a wonderful place, but it's unique. And so you can have the greatest players in the world that you offer $2 million to come there, and they get offered $2 million to go to Ohio State. They're more than likely still going to Ohio State.
Right. That's very fair. And that's a very fair thing to say, Tony. I think we all understand that. We're not trying to beat Ohio State as much as we are Oklahoma State, which is this weekend.
Right.
And you mentioned if there's an upper echelon of coach in the Big 12, it's this weekend. It's Mike Gundy. It doesn't get much better than what he's done.
Well, that's true. And also, I think that you go back to the Mike Gundy deal of, yes, Oklahoma State. I think Mike Gundy's been one of the best coaches for a long time in all of college football because he's been able to repeat on a cycle. But he's not playing empty-handed now. No. I mean, he had one of the wealthiest people in the history of America. That was his builder. But he was building the Taj Mahal before everybody was building the Taj Mahal. So he had that edge out there for a while, and now everybody else is catching up with it. But Mike has done, Mike has done a really good job again in a unique place, in a place that probably has some resemblance to West Virginia and to some degree. And Mike has done a great job. But every place is different in their own deal. Every year is different. Nobody knows what you have anymore in football. Nobody knows until you play 4 or 5 games. You think we got this guy in the portal. We got that guy in the portal. So we're going to be good. We're going to do this. You have no clue. The roster flips. Nobody knows who anybody is except for, again, the elite. Texas knows who they were before the year started. Alabama knew who they were before the year started. Georgia knew who they were before the year started. Penn State knew. Now, everybody wanted to say, well, this is Neal's year. They're going to be a top 5 team, and you've got the hoopla and all that stuff. Yeah. I never believed that because I don't think that the roster talent is that. I'll give you one great example. You lost what I believe to be one of the best centers in the history of college football, who now goes to the Steelers and proves that he's one of the best players in the NFL already. Let me tell you something. As a coach, when I put a roster together, I'm not so sure I don't start there as much as I start with the quarterback in today's world. And so replacing that guy is not an overnight thing that you do. And Matt Moore has proven year after year, Matt Moore's one of the best offensive line coaches in football. And so, it's still a tough deal to replace something like that.
It's really hard. I agree. We got to go to break. But after the break, guys, we are going to talk about this offense because I had so many questions I fielded this week, Tony. People saying, look, we do so great in 2 minutes. Let's just go to 2 minutes all the time. Tony's going to answer that on the other side of this break, guys. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start with a big return on FanDuel. Did you know that? America's #1 sportsbook, after all. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. It's really simple. You just go look at the play-by-play, and you can do so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Get started today with $200 in bonus bets, and that's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Now, live on the FanDuel app as I look, Oklahoma State has moved on the line, started at -3.5, which is pretty normal for a game like this, and now has moved. Money coming in on Oklahoma State still, even with that spread, now at 4.5, heading towards 5. So you make that, you might want to check that out before you place your bets this weekend, guys. Go to FanDuel today and check out the lines. Back with Tony Franklin, and we teased it before the break. It's always the offense, even though, I've been saying all week they've only scored 48 34, and 32 the last 3 games. But people don't want to talk about the defense, in my opinion, which needs fixing more than the offense. But here I've heard this all week, Tony. Why don't we just go to 2-minute? And Neal Brown was even asked in his press conference, and he said, look, when people prepare for us, they prepare for a 2-back system that runs the ball, shot plays, and a running quarterback in the RPO Rust Belt scheme, right? And if we ran 2-minute, they would prepare for that, right? And they would have answers for that. What say you?
Well, I think that every offense is unique based upon your team. Is that, I used to be, everything I believed in was fast tempo, spread the field, play faster than anybody in football. And, that's how we produced, and that's how we got the jobs that we got, and that's what made our name. But here's the thing. We were doing it before it was cool. We were doing it before everybody did it. We were doing RPOs before there was a word called RPO. We were creators of the RPO. But we had this gigantic advantage because we were doing it then. And then what happened is that defenses all got smaller. Defenses became 3-man front. The Iowa State defense is now the most popular defense throughout college football and throughout high school football because of all the spread and the up-tempo deals. So to me, the cycle of football goes is that when they yin, you yang. And so you have to reverse back to more big sets, more 2-back stuff, more even 3-back, 2-receiver stuff in order to get one-on-one matchups. The running quarterback is a gigantic advantage, in my opinion, no matter where you are. And obviously, Garrett Green is one of the best running quarterbacks in college football. The only thing that bothers me about him and his career there is the passing percentage. It's not the yards per attempt. His yards per attempts are really good, 7.6, 7.7, somewhere around there. But to be in the 50s is the problem that you get now when you're at 31% on your conversion rates on third downs. That's where the downfall of the offense is. And I know because I've been really good on third downs. I've been in the 45 to 50%, which is going to get you in the 40 to 50 points per game. But when you get down in the low and mid 30s, you're going to have a hard time winning close games. And that's the problem that they've had, so far, is that, you're going to get in these close games and you're going to have to be able to convert on a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 8. You're going to have to be extremely accurate and to be able to do that. So the idea of playing up tempo all the time, you have to remember this, is that is the defense going to be able to get a stop? Because the bottom line is it's going to come down to a close score ball game, whether it's 50 to 49 or 38 to 34. It's going to come down to being able to get a stop. So psychologically, as the play caller, especially when you're the head coach, you can call plays in order to watch a game, feel the game, and know, what? We're struggling. I'm going to have to control the ball a little bit more. I'm going to have to eat some clock because we're struggling. If you see that maybe that you're pitching a shutout and you're playing really good on offense, then sure, you can go tempo. Or if you're behind, obviously you got to go tempo anyway.
Right.
To me, it's got to be a mix. Is that the rhythm? To me, it's a rhythm as a play caller. There's only 6 things in football you can do. That's it. There's only 6. It's run RPO, play action pass, drop back pass, screens, move the pocket, and gimmicks. To me, the magic of play calling is how well do I mix that? And then mixing the tempos rather than being fast all the time, you mix the tempos.
That simplifies it for a defensive coordinator. If I was a D coordinator, it's probably how I would spell it out to a defense. Like there's 6 things you really need to look for, or however many of those things this offense does. I like how you put that. Sounds like you've been a coach.
Yeah. One time I was.
Where this spawned from, by the way, this question was, so obviously against Pitt, a lot of our success was during 2-minute situations we had. Go back to Kansas. We won the game in a 2-minute scenario. But there's a reason for that, right? And like you were saying, I just, to me, it was like, the offensive scored 38 or 48, 34, and 32. You can win with those numbers as long as you just play some complementary football. And I just feel like the questions being asked weren't about what people be focused on, which is probably more along the defensive side of the ball, which I know you love Leslie as well, but they've struggled this year. So, yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you that. I appreciate that response, man.
Well, here's the other thing too, is, and I'll say this, I don't know Jordan as well as I do the other guys. I knew Jordan when he was a young GA. Jordan, to me, is a really good football coach from a schematic part watching. Here's the thing. Don't judge defensive coordinators. It's almost impossible to judge those guys by scores anymore because of the way football is. But here's how you judge them, is that are they able to get the most out and play complementary football and get a stop man when you absolutely got to? And again, I go back to, you're going to have these cycles of ups and downs as coaches. And there was a lot of pressure on Neal a couple of years ago to get rid of Jordan. I mean, a tremendous amount of it. And this is what I admire about Neal. Okay. Like I said, I don't talk to Neal. We haven't talked in a long, long time. We don't message. We don't do any of that. So I'm not saying this is a guy that has any inside information. I'm saying this as an outsider in the profession. I admire a guy that goes, you know what? Yeah, it would make me have one good day of life to get rid of my guy. And everybody's fired up about whoever the new guy is. But you know what? The bottom line is, I believe in the guy. I think he's damn good. And I'm going to stand by him, and I'm going to bet my job on him. And
that's what he's done.
I like that. And not only that, it paid off. You won 9 games. You played better. And now, right now, hey, you played Penn State to start with. Pitt, all of a sudden, they hire a new OC, and all of a sudden, they're able to score points. And so it's different. You just got to hang in there. And again, there's a word called fan that's short for fanatic. And so I understand as a fan what people want. We want to win every game by 70 points and the other team not score. And I get that.
Don't score none.
Yeah, exactly. So I understand as a fan what it is.
So up next on Locked On West Virginia, we get to this last segment. We're going to talk a little bit about the game this weekend and maybe get into some other games, guys. Stick around for that. What does he think about Oklahoma State, West Virginia? All right, back with Tony Franklin, the savant. This is what I'm going to start calling him. He knows his stuff, man. Really, really great to talk to you today. Oklahoma State and West Virginia, both teams need it, right? It's one of those situations where when I look at this objectively, Mike Gundy's in a spot to where he, similar to last year, we kind of in this get-right spot for them. If you look back to last year, Ollie Gordon had really one of his first big games against West Virginia before he went on this almost Heisman-esque run. And now West Virginia's in a spot where, okay, yeah, they may have lost a few games, but if we don't win this, we've got in back-to-back fashion Iowa State, Kansas State, this Oklahoma State team. It's a big, big ask to lose this game and still be in the conference race for West Virginia as well. What's your take on this whole deal?
Well, I think that if you look at the schedule, when I look at the schedule, I go, you know what? Every week, and Neal said this, I think, before the season, every week's the same. Everybody's good enough to win. It's the most even leveled conference that there is left over in whatever it is, the big, I don't even know what they call it anymore. But it's everybody is similar. Everybody's close to the same. If the ball bounces your way, you're going to win that week. If it doesn't bounce your way, you're going to lose that week. And so going in, it is a big game because you look down the rest of the Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Baylor, UCF, and you go, well, where's the gimme?
You can't find
Texas Tech. Where's the gimme? There is no gimme.
Yeah, you can't find it.
And so you're going to go in every week, and if the ball rolls the right way, if you have that one deal to where instead of it tipping a finger, it goes another half an inch above, and that happens 4 or 5 weeks in a row, you get on a roll. And then all of a sudden you're a really good coach again. How are we going to keep this guy? If the ball hits the finger twice and flips over the wrong way, it's going to be, can you think Saban would come back one more time if we offer him $6 billion a year? Would he come back for that? Would he do that? So I just think that it's one of those things to where that, you're, as a fan, I get it, I understand it, but be patient. they're going to go out, they're going to play good, they're going to have sound coaching. If they're healthy and they go into the games, they're going to have chances to win. If the ball bounces their way, they're going to win. If it doesn't bounce their way, they're probably not.
So what games do you typically watch on a Saturday, Tony? What games do you prioritize? Obviously, I looking at who you've coached in the past, there's a bunch of different teams. You've got Cal in there, you've got Auburn in there, Middle Tennessee's probably in there, Troy might be in there. But who do you watch typically? Like if there's all the games are on at the same time, who do you watch first and foremost?
That's a great question. I have the YouTube TV, so believe it or not, my wife is a more avid fan than me.
What?
So if she gets mad at me because I'll have 4 games on at once, divided up into the 4 screens, and she'll throw a fit. Now, especially if Neal's on, she's going to say, I'm tired of this. You have to I want to see them. I want to watch, I want to see those guys on the sideline, and because she loves Brooke. And so I personally, that if West Virginia plays, I'm going to watch West Virginia, and I'm going to go back and forth to other games. So I always want to see how those guys are doing. I'll keep up with any of the people that I've coached with over the years. And I'll watch, for example, I'll have Samford on my computer, because Chris Hatcher is probably the only real friend I have left in the coaching world that stays in touch with me. And so that's a negative thing to say. You're not supposed to stay in touch with Tony Franklin. But I'll keep up with Samford football. And so I'll watch and if there's a big game like Alabama, Georgia, how can you not watch that if you're a real football fan? And, I pull for DeBoer because I don't think there's a worse job in the world than following Nick Saban. And I really respect DeBoer and what he's done over the years.
Done a good job so far.
Oh, it's been phenomenal. It's fun to watch the quarterback become such a better player under him. And so I just try to, I love watching the game. It's the one thing in life that makes me kind of feel alive, to still watch the game. And I even enjoy the NFL now. I've enjoyed the NFL a lot more since they became really, truly college. They run a college offense now, and that's why the old guys hate it. Yeah, the Seahawks I love watching the Seahawks, and I still enjoy watching Jared play when Jared's playing. And so any of the guys that I've coached.
What a game he had.
Yeah, 18-18 ain't bad.
Wow.
So it's pretty good.
Unbelievable game. And I was pulling for Geno Tupp. And listen, Geno's playing at an elite level, is he not?
Geno, let me tell you something. There's not a better quarterback than Geno in the NFL. Geno is as accurate right now as anybody, and has been. It goes back to this same old deal. Everybody wants to go, well, what happened to Geno? I say this. Geno is just like what happens to a lot of those guys.
Rich Gannon.
You go to the wrong place. Yeah. You get coached by the wrong guy. You get in the wrong system and the wrong deal. All of a sudden, you're no good. You get coached by the right guys in the right place. All of a sudden, miraculously, you're good. If Jared Goff had stayed with Jeff Fisher and that organization, they hadn't fired them in the same old season, QB coaches and all the other stuff, he would have been a horrible player because coaching matters. It makes a difference.
Tavon Austin's a great example of that, too. He couldn't have went to a worse coach than Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
Good Lord for that. I wonder what would have happened to Tavon Austin with Andy Reid or something, but
exactly. Yeah.
I think he would have had a much better career when he was young enough to do it.
Well, if Pat Mahomes had gone to the wrong spot, nobody would have ever heard of Pat Mahomes. It's the same. It's always the same. Tim Couch is listed as one of the biggest busts in the history of the NFL. Tim Couch wasn't a bust. The Cleveland Browns were a bust. Yeah. The organization was a bust. The ownership was a bust. The head coach was a bust. Yeah. The OC was a bust. Tim Couch wasn't a bust. Tim Couch was a really good player that if he'd been in the right place, the right people, the right system, it's like Johnny Manziel. Yeah, Manziel was crazy. Yeah, all the other stuff about Manziel. But you know what? If Andy Reid had Manziel would have been a much better NFL player.
Makes Andy Reid better than everybody else. That's what he does.
I think
he's that much smarter. Or?
Yeah, I think it's the lack of ego. I think that's
true too. Yeah.
I think that when you don't want, like Andy Reid, let it be known that he went to Kingsbury and said, let's watch this guy and figure out what you did with him, and let's come back and do what he does well. you got the other guys going, well, he couldn't take the 9-step drop. That's why I don't like Gruden, is that he couldn't do my thing. I want to get on.
Right.
Here's our play. It's 97-4 banana, Z zoom, X Badoo, 743 other words. And Mike Leach says, yeah, we call that cross. Well, you can't be as smart as me. Drop the ego, look at what a quarterback can do, then turn your offense into who they are and what they're good at, because that's how you win. Don't make it about yourself, and then don't blame that guy when it doesn't work.
I guess I never looked at it from that perspective as a fan, because I love all that. And, in one aspect, I love to tell my friends that don't watch sports, like, you think sports people are dumb to listen to this play call, and,
right.
And I never thought of it from an ego perspective, but you're dang right, but thank you for being on here.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
It's been a great, great time. Would love to have you on again.
Yeah, anytime, man. And all the fan base out there, I say be patient. Neal's been there a long time. In my opinion, and again, I say this without the fact that, we don't converse. We're not like buddies on the phone and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think the guy's a damn good coach, and I think the staff is good. You're just you're in a place and in a league that, like I said, 6 or 7 wins. Hey, you're good. Okay. 8 or 9, you're great. 10 or more, start naming some buildings and streets and stuff, because it's a tough gig. It's a great gig. It's a great place. The fan base is phenomenal. I would love to go get fired at West Virginia. Getting fired at a place like that's fun.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. And look, guys, don't forget to check out Locked On College Football as well with Spencer McLaughlin. Thanks for making me your first listen of the day. Go to Locked On College Football next. Make sure you follow Coach Tony Franklin at Coach TF on X. I'm at Paul Mountaineer. For Tony, for me, thank you guys. I am out.